1956, Real Madrid 57, Real Madrid 58, Real Madrid 59, Real Madrid 60, Real Madrid 61, Benfica 62, Benfica 63, Milan 64, Internazionale 65, Internazionale 66, Real Madrid 67, I can't remember, 68, Manchester United 69, Milan 70, Feyenoord 71, Ajax 72, Ajax 73, Ajax 74, Bayern München 75, Bayern München 76, Bayern München 77, Liverpool 78, Liverpool 79, Notts Forest 80, Nottingham Forest 81, Liverpool 82, Aston Villa 83, highest Val, HSV, SV Hamburg 84, Liverpool 85, Juventus 86, Stoy Bucharest 87, Porto 8, PSV Eindhoven 89, Milan 90, Milan 91, Crvena Zvezda Belgrade, Red Star Belgrade 92, the last ever winners of the European Cup. Barcelona 93, the first ever winners of the Champions League. Olympic Marseille, though they weren't allowed to defend their title like all the best winners of European trophies. 1994, Milan 95, Ajax Amsterdam 96, Juventus 97, Borussia Dortmund 98, Real Madrid 99, Manchester United 26th of May 1999, day I get married. Manchester United 2000, Real Madrid 2001, Bayern München 2002, Real Madrid. I was there, I was at that final. 2003, Milan 2004, Porto 2005. It's Liverpool 2006, Barcelona 2007, Milan 2008, Manchester United 2009, Barcelona 2010, Internazionale 2011, Barcelona 2012, Chelsea 2013, Bayern München 2014, Real Madrid La Decima 2015, Barcelona 2016, Real Madrid 2017, Real Madrid 2018, Real Madrid 2019, Liverpool 2020 was Bayern München, 2021 Chelsea, 2022 Real Madrid, 2023 Manchester City, 2024 Real Madrid, 2025 Paris Saint-Germain. Do the runners up as well. We'll do the runners up as well because it counts as deflecting attention, but it's the same thing. I don't want to be dishonest tonight. I don't want to do any tricks. I want to talk to my peeps. I want to talk to my Rangers peeps. This is something that's got to be discussed. But we're going to keep up the traditions of the pod. The runners up in the Champions League. I'm just shutting my eyes on that just so you know that I'm not looking. I mean, I've got really big hands. I could have it written down there, but it's just to tell you. 1956, the first ever runners up in the European Cup were Stade de Reims. They lost to Real Madrid 4-3 in the Parc des Princes in Paris. Tomplin, LeBlanc and Hidalgo. They scored the 3 goals for Stade de Reims in the first ever European Cup final, and they lost in Paris. Amazing, but Michel Hidalgo, and he was the manager of France when they won the Euros at the Parc des Princes. Although it had been done up a bit since 1970, got a big makeover, became the pre-stressed concrete beauty that it is just now. The Parc des Princes, they won the final of the Euros here, France in 1984, and they beat Spain in the final. So he'd lost to Real Madrid in the first ever European Cup final, Michel Hidalgo, but he became the manager of France, and he won the Euros by beating France's first major honour, and they beat Spain, the country of Real Madrid. And that's what am I talking? 50, it says runners up. 57 Fiorentina, 58 Milan beat us along the way to that final. 59 Stade de Reims again. 60 Eintracht Frankfurt. They beat us 8 goals. They beat us by 8 goals in aggregate in the semi-final. That one, Eintracht Frankfurt. Imagine losing by 8 goals in aggregate. 61 runners up in the European Cup final. 61 runners up in the European Cup, where Barcelona 62, Real Madrid 63, Benfica 64, Real Madrid 65, Benfica 66, Partizan Belgrade 67, Internazionale 68, Benfica 69, Ajax of Amsterdam 70, Celtic 71, Panathinaikos 72, Internazionale 73, Juventus 74, Atletico de Madrid after a replay 75, Leeds United 76, Saint Etienne 77, Borussia Mönchengladbach 78. The runners up in the 1978 European Cup final. Some club from Belgium called Club Brugge. 79 Malmo. 80 highest Val Hamburg, 81 Real Madrid, 82 Bayern München, 83 Juventus, 84 AS Roma, 85 Liverpool, 86 Barcelona, 87 Bayern München 88. That was the penalties. It was PSV beating Benfica and Stuttgart. 89 was Milan beat Steaua Bucharest. 90 Benfica. 91. And before that one, Eusebio went to the curse of the Bela Gutmann curse. Bela Gutmann was buried in Vienna, so he went to his grave before it and he prayed to his grave, Bela Gutmann's grave, his old manager, and asked him, could you lift the curse? Bela Gutmann, it didn't help. Benfica still never won another European final since the two they won, the two European Cups they won on the bounce under Bela Gutmann, 61, 62. I mean, he come back as manager after he'd done the cuts. But so that was what, 1990, 91 runners-up was, that was in Bari, the Stadio San Nicola, the Renzo Piano, 0-0 penalties. Red Star Belgrade beating Marseille, Olympic Marseille, Chrissy Waddles, Olympic Marseille is well known then. 92 Sampdoria, 93 Milan, 94 Barcelona, 95 Milan, 96 is that's Ajax of Amsterdam, 97 Juventus, 98 Juventus, 99 Bayern München, 2000 Valencia, 2001 Valencia, 2002 Bayer Leverkusen, 2003 Juventus, 2004 AS Monaco, 2005 Milan, 2006 Arsenal, 2007 Liverpool, 2008 it was Chelsea, 2009 Manchester United getting a team there, 2010 Bayern München, 2011 Manchester United, 2012 we've got the runners up being Bayern München, 2013 Borussia Dortmund, 2014 Wembley, 2014 runners up was Atletico de Madrid, 2015 Juventus, 2016 Atletico de Madrid, 2017 it was and that's Cardiff, wasn't it? That's Juventus. 2018 was that was Liverpool, and Kiev. 2019 Tottenham. 2020 Paris Saint-Germain, 2021 Manchester City, 2022 Liverpool, 2023 was 2023 was Inter, 2024 Borussia Dortmund, 2025 Inter international. That's the European. I mean, this is us. We're officially. It's going to be another season where we don't win the. I think that's. I don't know if it's too close to call. How's the away goals rule work? I don't know. Is it? I don't think we won that game tonight. I think that's us out of the Champions League. We're not going to win the Champions League, the All European Cup. So that's another season where Celtic have won it, and we have the number 67. Come on the park tonight. I think it was the last substitution that Club Brugge made. I don't think it was, but just before they scored the last goal of the game, they brought on in the 48th minute. They brought on a number 67. I thought, yeah, that's it again. We won't be winning the European Cup, and it does pain me, and it stops paining me, that it stops hurting me that we've never been champions of Europe, that we'll stop trying to be champions of Europe, we'll stop trying to head it. We've probably never been further away than we have been further away than we were tonight. I mean, this is not the worst result you've ever seen. This is not the worst Rangers performance you've ever seen, or non-performance as it is. We've been beat at home by Peterhead, we've been beat at home by Annan. You know, it's not the worst, but at this level in Europe, it's not often you can say this is it's the worst I've ever seen, and you're no right. And you're not somebody who's overreacting, you're overhyping it. That is 5-0 at half time. We've never been 5-0 down in the first half. Never conceded 5 goals in the first half of a European tie, and Rangers first in Europe. I've never actually counted up how many seasons we've been in European competition totally, but our first season was 70 years ago. There's a 70th season of European football. We missed out the very first season, so we've not been in all of them since then, but we've been in most of them, and that's the worst we've ever played in the first half. We've equalled our worst ever result in an individual match. The heaviest margin, 6 goals is the margin, and we've done that, managed to achieve that for the third time, losing by 6 goals in Europe. And for the second midweek in the trot, I've actually taken the thing for doing the post-match reaction pod from home was I can stick a kettle on and try and calm down a wee bit and just check a few stats and try and see the Russell Martin post-match reaction pod. No, on the Russell Martin post-match press conference, you should just do a reaction pod, same as we put it out there, let everybody watch it. He can get to say what he likes without pesky interviewers saying, "What are you talking about, Russell? What do you mean? Have you fallen up the players? What is happening here?" I get a chance to kind of my initial reaction again at full time tonight. It's like 4 seconds of injury time and Jack Butland. That was the two results in this game tonight for Rangers. Jack Butland and 4 seconds of injury time. Because it was so done. It was so over. It was inhumane to play out injury time. If I was like a Celtic supporter watching that or a Brugge supporter watching it, I think Brugge they could have, a club Brugge, they could have equalled their record. I think Rory Hamilton was saying, was it 8-0? They'd beat somebody 8-0 once in Europe. That's their record win in Europe. It was going to be 10. I mean, it was going to be 10 goals at one point, easily. They were going to get double figures, no two ways about it. But they just, I think we lulled them, and it made it. We eventually were making it so easy for them that they kind of fell asleep. They lost their edge because they didn't need one. They didn't need to focus anymore. We just gave them such. But they should really have been pushing for. They should have been thinking, well, we got a couple of goals, wasn't it, in injury time at the end of the first half. If we get one, we might get three. Against this mob. So if it's 3 minutes of injury time, I don't know how many second half subs we had. At least one second half substitute. It was Conor Barron, we brought him on. They had one as well, at least. So that's essentially it's supposed to be 30 seconds per sub. Mostly there's no injury time because they were just moving the ball about constantly. We could even get a foul in on them, really. The ball hardly went out at all. Even when it was a corner, they just took it nice and quick, like real teams are supposed to. But I just that's the biggest result. You very rarely see that, the ref blowing. I think it was like 4 seconds afterwards he'd actually blown for full time, 90 minutes and 4 seconds. But that was the biggest mercy of the evening. And I found myself actually a wee bit kind of, I've just spent 40 minutes. And when they made it 6-0 in the 50th minute, I thought it's 40 minutes plus injury time that I am going to have to, Rangers are going to have to get through this. The way they're playing, it wasn't the 10 men wasn't the thing. It was just the general incompetence, the complete inability to play basic football. That was what the problem was. I don't mean any disrespect to Club Brugge, who are very, very good, obviously, but it wasn't even them either. It was just, they're part of the problem, a major part of the problem, Club Brugge, but they were just doing what they're supposed to do. We were just not there. And I remember thinking, I'm going to see Rangers. I was there when we conceded 7 to Liverpool in that game in 2022, and I thought, I'm not there, I'm not in Bruges, but I'm watching this live on the telly. I'm going to see Rangers conceding 8 goals for the first time since God knows when. I don't recall us ever conceding 8. I think we're records. Is it Airdrie only? He's only grew up for years reading these wee stats, but it was Airdrie beat us 8-2. Somebody else beat us 8. It was Third Lanark or Dumbarton, or somebody put 8 past us in a friendly or something like that back in 18 canteen. But I don't recall any time we've conceded 8 goals. When we conceded 7 to Liverpool, that was the first time in my lifetime. The first time it happened to us in Europe as well, in a single match. I know obviously Celtic beat us in the 1957 League Cup final. They beat us 7-1 in that, but that was slightly before I was around. And I thought tonight, I'm definitely going to see us conceding 8. The real worry was it's going to get to 10, 9, 10. 8 because I'd seen us doing it to Kilmarnock once. We beat Kilmarnock 8-1 at Rugby Park once, but about 1979-80ish when I was a kid. Somehow even that managed to seem a little bit realistic, a little bit kind of, you're getting hammered, but whereas 9, 10, it's just, Rangers losing by any more than a couple of goals in any match ever is always horrific, but that had long ago failed to be the limit of our worry. Losing by a couple of goals, 2 or 3 goals, it was just clear that this could be any score, as Rory Hamilton said in the commentary, that Bruges wanted it to be, and the fact that we got to end it. I find myself again, sorry I'm rambling here, kind of in shock, to be honest with you, a bit shattered. I found myself the second midweek in the trot actually strangely happy. It's no real happiness, obviously not. It's just an overpowering relief because you've had such a traumatic level of worry. The trauma's there. The trauma's root. Getting beat 6-0, getting beat 6-0. It's just traumatic in itself. But I think because you immediately go to these ones. I always remember Tommy Burns, the late great Tommy Burns. I was at the game. It was about this time of year. Was it 27th of August? That was that 1988. We're playing Celtic at Ibrox. I think Celtic scored first, and we beat them 5-1. That was the first real doing in my lifetime in an Old Firm game for either side. And I remember Tommy Burns being interviewed on Scott Sport the next day, and I just kept saying to myself, don't let them get to 7. Don't let them get to 7. And I think it was the last half hour of that game. I think we were 5-1 up with like at least 25 minutes to go. And we didn't really push on. But it was such in those days when I was growing up, that didn't really happen either way. Maybe a 3-0 once at Parkhead. We get beat once, maybe at Parkhead. But you never really saw an actual all-out doing in an Old Firm game. So for 5-1 was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. This is sensational. I was just so chuffed to have beaten them by that. But I think I knew about the 7-1 game in the League Cup final. I would have done. I was 1988. I was like 19. So I did know about it, but I never really thought it was on next day. Tommy Burns saying that, and I'm thinking, oh God, that's how humiliating for them. He's begging it doesn't get to 7. It's one of the worst ever doing off. And then I realised what he's doing is he's saying he didn't get to 7. So you quickly go, as a fanatic of one team, you quickly go to, this isn't going right. This is a disastrous game. We're getting hammered here. What's the worst it can be? You go to that point where you're thinking, what is it? And I know the record score. I know it's 7. I know it's 7. In terms of conceding goals, 7-1, but I know it's a 6-goal margin. Rangers have never been beaten by more than 6 goals in Europe. And by the time it gets to the end of the game, you've sat there for 40 minutes and 4 seconds of it being 6. I was almost like popping the champagne if I'd had any on me. I laughed out loud. I was like, I can't believe this guy's blowing for full time 4 seconds. We've got away with one there. Get beat 6-0. You get away with nothing. So I've had to calm myself down and just take a wee break before I come on here, lest I do that thing I did last Tuesday as well, because we lost 3 goals in the first 20 minutes. We've only lost a game at Ibrox by 2 goals. We pulled one back in the second half. We've only lost a game at Ibrox by 2 goals in Europe, which we did. We lost 2 home games by 2 clear goals last season in Europe. Fenerbahce at Ibrox, Dynamo Kiev at Hampden. We lost by 3 clear goals to Lyon as well in the group stages of the Europa League last season. So it was like the 4th time in the space of a year, really, that Rangers had lost by 2 goals at home, 2 goals or more at home in Europe. And last season was 4 months ago, in a European quarter final. So it wasn't that big a deal at the time, but I was so relieved that after going 3-0 down in 20 minutes and it looking like we were going to get destroyed at Ibrox last week, that I was actually quite buzzing at the end of the game. Post-match reaction pod last Thursday, and I'm feeling I'm doing the same thing again tonight, when obviously, once I get a night's sleep or whatever, I will realise it's nothing like joy. It's opposite, and it's inappropriate for you guys, Rangers supporters, watching this, supporters of other teams enjoying the pain. Will be like, no, please start crying, please have a breakdown. I don't tend to start crying unless Rangers win. And it's getting to be such a shock these days if Rangers win. That'll be in absolute floods. I'm very good at backing this kind of stuff up, backing up the back. I try to laugh try to cry when things go wrong to get it out of my system, whatever. But it was just stunning tonight. It was just about being stunned, about being kind of run over. How you doing, folks? This is your Fat Egg immediate post. Rangers will not, thank goodness, begin into the dull old Champions League group stage with teams like Paphos, Bodo Glimt, Kairat Almaty and Karabag. We'll be heading into the classy Europa League with teams like Roma, Bologna, Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa, Red Star Belgrade, Celtic, old European Cup, and a lot of teams that won the European Cup but haven't won the Champions League. I think all the British teams that have won the European Cup but not also won the Champions League. It's the same thing, or the same competition, obviously, but I just mean like in both eras. A lot of them in in the Europa League this season, the Europa League group. So that'll be lovely. That's where you want to be, and we didn't want to have to play extra time and penalties tonight. Anyway, we have a big game on Sunday, so you'll be really chuffed about that as well. Reaction Pod coming to you in association with Jersnet. Check out Jersnet this Friday night. It's Ben. He's hosting it, and he's hosting me. I'm going to be on it as well, because of course I am. Of course I am. If I'd told you last night that I was going to be on Jersnet on Friday, you probably would have put a bet on this school night. I'm sponsored by Jersnet, and I'm also sponsored by Sugar Coating. The sugar coaters of the world unite. I mean, it's a dying industry apparently. A lot of hate for sugar coaters. Remember, you used to see the documentaries now, watching Nationwide, or was it maybe even Blue Peter, whatever. Documentaries, always the guys who get the white kind of t-shirt and the white apron, that, they're a bit kind of maybe done a bit of time or something like that. Something that happened to them anyway, lean fellas, and that kind of gristly, maybe spent some time at Majesty's pleasure sort of way, but they'd be just doing the thing with Blackpool or Great Yarmouth, Skegness, whatever. They put one arm over the other, and so the big pink stuff's going. And then just right Blackpool through it, right, kiss me quick through it, whatever. And it was stretching it. I was like, oh my god, it's weird, isn't it? It's weird. And then they'd put it, and it'd be the sugar, the coating, the sugar. But folk hate that now. Apparently, folk absolutely hate the sugar coating. There's a lot that was just hearing various podcasts, Rangers podcasts, and Alan Hutton tonight on TNT as well. He's doing no time for sugarcoating. Can he sugarcoat this? Don't want to sugarcoat. It must be a dying industry. It must be becoming really artisanal, coating stuff in sugar, because a lot of hate for it out there. Have to kind of go a bit underground. It's the same as woke, and you don't want to be compassionate for people, and I don't want to. It's just like we don't want anything sweet, anything nice at all. Don't sugarcoat it. You can't sugarcoat this. There's no sugarcoating it. That's a big thing. The sugarcoat. So I'm going to come out in sponsorship of a sugarcoating collective that's sponsoring me, actually, if I'm honest with you. So it used to be, see, the big guys just in the stretching out their arms, didn't they? And then there'd be a big metal thing in a big bowl, and they'd begin running, they'd be stretching it running, and then they'd be hammering it, and they'd chisel and coating it in the sugar, and the sugar would be shiny, and they would just, remember they'd do all that, and they'd be documented. That was that. And there's also, sugar coating. For example, the last time Rangers lost 6-0 in Europe, we won the treble. Last time we lost 6-0 in Europe, we won the treble. That same season, 1963-64. Last time we lost a match 6-0 in Europe. The only other time we've lost a match 6-0 in European competition. There's another bit of sugar coating I could get. What was it? No, can't think it. Can't remember what it was, but it was something to do with sugar coating. Anyway, I'm sponsored by that. My name's Alec Anderson, e luce van le stelle, e dove stava la terra, stride all'uscio dell'orto, e un passo sfiorava l'arena, entrava nella fragrante, mi cadea fra le braccia. Oh, dolci bacio, languide carezze, mentre la belle forme di show, e dai veli svani per sempre il sogno mio d'amore. L'ora è fuggita, e mio disperato, ma tanto la vita, My name's Alec Anderson, and I'm here to talk to you after Rangers have exited the 2025-2026 Champions League at the playoff stage, losing the second leg of their playoff tie against Club Brugge by 6-0 in the Jan Bredel Stadium. Our unbeaten record there going tonight, to lose 9-1 on aggregate. The only other time we've lost by 8 goals on aggregate in a two-legged European tie was to Eintracht Frankfurt Eintracht Frankfurt in the 1959-60 European Cup semi-final, which remains to this day the biggest doing, I think. I'm pretty sure to this day the biggest doing anybody's ever taken in a European club competition semi-final on aggregate. So that one there, we lost by 6-0, 5-0 down at half time with a man sent off. You watched it all, you've seen it you heard it on the radio, you've seen it on the TV show. It's just absolutely stinking. I was just watching Scent of a Woman. Scent of a Woman was on Saturday night, just flicking through channels last night, flicking through channels, and Sunday night, every day that thing where it's like, if you're going, I always end up, I go to bed, just like my wife, I'll just come up to bed, and I just, she's brush her teeth or something, and I'll just sit and flick through. I feel as if I switch off the telly somehow, I don't know, it's a control thing or something like that. Like men, you like to have the remote control, all that kind of boring stuff. And it's been Godfather. They've been showing them on the BBC, BBC Two or BBC Four or something like that. And it was Al in Godfather one night, the first Godfather film, then the second night. And I usually, if I'm sitting myself in the living room, I'll just watch this for a wee second, and I'm there for 2 hours watching the Godfather, even though I've seen the two of them, the first two Godfathers about a million times. Each bit, I was like, no, I've had enough, because on Saturday night I've had enough of Al, even though it's young, beautiful, really taciturn, living the Stanislavski and the methods. I mean, he's in Lee Strasberg. He's in Godfather 2. Lee Strasberg's playing. He's the method. He's the Stanislavski guy. He starts the method school. Him and his missus and that. So it's quite a big thing. He's in another film with Lee Strasberg, which was on the telly a wee while ago. A really awful film later on in the 70s, with Lee Strasberg's playing his grandpa, I think, in an old folks' home. But obviously big pals. The whole point is, I don't know what to talk about. Yeah, I watched Scent of a Woman on Saturday night, because it's a kind of tea time type of film. You just sit there, there's nothing really on. It's that kind of time. The Rangers games on a Sunday. If it was on this Sunday, which is still, I'll never get used to it. It's always been a strange day. Ending on Saturday, 3 o'clock, and Wednesday night, 7:45. It's strange for an old man like me, set in his ways, but it's Al Pacino. He's kind of hoo-ha, OTT worst, if you like. And it's all been documented. You saw the back in the day. What was it called? They did the comic strip presents, and the one was Arthur Scargill, played by Al Pacino. It was about the miners' strike and all that, and they were taking that's the first time I'd realised. I was really young when this was on. Why is they doing anything with the oranges and all that? Obviously, the oranges, the Godfather reference is a big thing that Francis Ford Coppola did in The Godfather, but it was the way he was peeling stuff and using his hands all the time. The guy was pretending to be Al Pacino playing Arthur Scargill, and that was one. And you'd notice, like, if you watch in Heat, where I've got 3 dead bodies on a sidewalk off Venice Beach, Justine. I'm sorry if the goddamn chicken got overcooked, and he picks up his remote control for his wee portable telly, and the way he picks up the remote control, and he's pitting doing a chicken drumstick, and it's all with the hands, kind of OTT stuff. That's how he gets into his characters. But he just went full kind of the Scent of a Woman. I mean, I hate Chris O'Donnell as well, because he played young Hemingway, and I'm a big Hemingway. I mean, even though Hemingway was a total douchebag in real life, in so many ways, I'm a big Hemingway fan, and I love A Farewell to Arms. It's one of the greatest novels ever written, and it's supposed to be the real story behind A Farewell to Arms. It's a kind of biopic of that period in Hemingway's life, but Chris O'Donnell's playing opposite Sandra Bullock. She's a nurse, and it's like, it's just awful. It's not his fault. He's in the film. Casting directors, Richard Attenborough and things like that. And Chris O'Donnell in it, because Chris O'Donnell then, when I see him in Scent of a Woman, even though it was earlier, it was in 1992, I think it was, it's like 3 years before Heat, and I don't know, maybe his in Heat, when Al Pacino's also in the 90s got these really OTT performances, and these OTT performance in Heat, I don't know if it took so much heat, pun intended, afterwards, that by the time the DVD with extras came out, I think it was 10 years later, they'd installed these like extra bits of interviews with the actors, where they were trying to make out that the idea that Vincent Hanna's character, the story behind him, the method behind Vincent Hanna, the robbery homicide cop that Al Pacino plays in Heat, the 1995 Michael Mann movie, was a coke fiend. He did a lot of cocaine to keep him going because he's working. One of those guys out there all night, dedicated, because he's doing a lot of that as well. But it was never mentioned in the film, never shown in the film. I think they've slipped that in retrospectively to try and explain. I was like, "Give me all you got, give me all you got." Maybe it was a bit obvious that the character was supposed to be on cocaine. I don't know, but he's doing all that kind of stuff. So if you come across, I don't know, if you come across this film, I'd seen it about 2 or 3 times at the time, years ago, 30 odd years ago. We're talking about now, Scent of a Woman. But you can, it's one of the things you can watch. It's early on a Saturday night where you're still having something to eat, and before you settle down properly to watch something really enjoyable. If you're in the house, It's after midnight before I do the proper kind of private stuff where I'm boozed up and I'm still sitting on the couch myself and I've got YouTube on and I'm watching the other kind of nostalgia. I'm watching like the Prodigy, the Phoenix Festival in 1996. But I realised what it actually reminds me of 1992. It's kind of Rangers. It's 1992. It's me in 1992 that films. Why am I watching this film again when I was so kind of OTT? And it's because it's reminding me of what it was like to be. I would be 22, 23 in 1992-1993 season. We're playing Bruges and we're beating Club Bruges in the Champions League. We're winning the treble. We're getting to within a goal of the Champions League final, and I was 1 year younger than Chris O'Donnell, which I no longer am, or 1 year older than him. The days when telling a woman that, the perfume, you could tell her what perfume she was wearing or what soap she'd washed herself in that morning before leaving for work. Somehow that wasn't creepy. It was that was seduction back in the day. The Scent of a Woman, I think, is based on an Italian novel for the 70s, and I think it came out the year after Silence of the Lambs, Scent of a Woman, and I had to look up I looked up in Wikipedia on Saturday night because I started thinking when I saw it on Saturday night. There'd been a thing on about Silence of the Lambs on the BBC last week that I just caught while flicking through the channels late at night. It must be 30 years since it came out. I sort of 30. No, obviously no. 1991, Silence of the Lambs came out, but they were doing us. They were interviewing Brian Cox and Anthony Hopkins, the guys who played Hannibal Lecter on screen, but not the big guy that I actually fancy, the Danish fella. But they were Mads Mikkelsen. But they were interviewing them and talking about Silence of the Lambs, and I'm watching the bit Scent of a Woman where he's telling all these women Al Pacino's character, and he's blind, obviously. And so I'm working in the dark here. And he's kind of suicidal as well, and he's a bit severe, and he's got the button done up in his shirt and stuff like that. And I'm like, he looks like Hannibal Lecter in his cell with the toe, and that's what it is. Some director out there, or some Hollywood mogul, or some producer. In 1991, he's went, everybody loves this bit where Hannibal Lecter's giving it, oh, Clarice, I can smell what your perfume is. I can smell eau de toilette or whatever it is she's supposed to be wearing. I can smell what you had, for your dinner, 2 weeks ago, and that kind of thing. Everybody's kind of taken on by that, but it's a horror film. But let's do a nice version of that. And it's a year later we get Scent of a Woman. And I had to look up that it was actually based on a novel to make sure that it wasn't actually just based on somebody just decided a year later that we're going to. And instead of a psychopath who's going to eat you, let's make it a blind man who wants to shag you. In Scent of a Woman, in the scene where his nephew is taking him out, is kind of trashing him at Thanksgiving. There's a Thanksgiving meal that he crashes the Al Pacino character. He's blind and all that, ex-army, a bit of a character, hoo-ha. And his nephew's chipping away at him at the table, fully grown man. And he says to him, he just says, you should, I can hear some tension in your wife's voice, he says to his nephew, and he says, you should go down on her more. It's quite sexual, very rude and all, that's very scandalous. And I'm thinking the American expression also is eating her out. And it's like, instead of that kind of Hannibal Lecter, it's hoo-ha about Hannibal and Horny Al would have been in more kind of harmony than they are with the fact that Buffalo Bill, who's the prodigy to Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, is played by the same guy who plays Bosco, who is Vincent Hanna's prodigy in Heat. He's in the same kind of police, and that's Teddy Bear Levine. So I think sometimes we love films so much for their innate quality. That's what I mean, like Manhunter, the original the original film to have Hannibal Lecter in it, the first film to have Hannibal Lecter in it, played by Brian Cox, is Michael Mann, directed by Michael Mann, who of course directs. It's got Tom Noonan, the Tooth Fairy. He's playing the Tooth Fairy. He's in Heat as well, and Michael Mann directs Heat and directing Al Pacino in Heat. Everything's it's all linked up. But I think the films, there's the innate quality of them, but also, as I say, they remind us of kind of who we were and how bloody young we were when we first watched them in football. I think we reverse engineer that a wee bit, and that we remember when our team was doing well, was a quality side. They were winning cups and league titles, and you feel the kind of methodology applied then when they were beating Club Brugge in the Champions League and winning the treble. It's what's required today to get us back to winning away. So what have we got? What have we got? Says the Vincent Hanna, the Al Pacino character. Vincent Hanna his men are saying, don't give up. He thinks Robert De Niro's Neil Macaulay, the guy he's chasing, the crook that he's chasing all through Heat. He thinks he's got away, he's gone. He's flown the country. We're never going to catch him now. And he's still got bits of evidence. We still got stuff we can do. His men are saying to him, but he's like, I'm going to go to the hotel and I'm going to sleep for a month. Bye bye. You were gone. You were good, motherfucker. He's gone. He's out of here. Whoa. Let's no bother trying to pursue him anymore. You got to know when to call it a day. But we should all be Wes Studi. We should all be Wes Studi in Heat. We should be Casals, the character Casals, played by Wes Studi. Come on, Vincent. But Wayne Groves just checked into the hotel marquee under Jameson. Neil Macaulay has stopped off to murder Roger Van Zant. It all becomes while after Al Pacino goes back to his hotel and finds his stepdaughter has slashed her wrists in his hotel bathtub, and he goes to the hospital with her. He gets the wee notification, he gets the wee pager telling him that, and everything's still it's happy. You should always keep believing. Bruges, tough, but we don't expect to go through. But we beat Union Saint-Gilloise last season in the Europa League. We beat them, and Union Saint-Gilloise won the Belgian Pro League. They finished above Club Brugge, so it's just Celtic's not a happy place right now. Paradise, sack the board and stuff like that. There's tensions there, not making enough signings. They're not very happy, so we shouldn't give up on the idea that we're going to win on Sunday either. And that kind of this, but what you got, what's happened there is the Vincent Hanna character played by Al Pacino has given up. He's given up on being able to catch the bad guys because he's saying the bad guys are so good. They're so good at what they do that there's no point, and that's, you should never give up and try to catch the bad guys. But the real message of Heat and Scent of a Woman is choose life. Both of us choose life. Al doesn't kill himself. The Al character doesn't kill himself in Scent of a Woman. That's what he's intending to do that weekend, blow his own brains out. And in Heat, the Al Pacino character, as well as killing Robert De Niro's Neil Macaulay, he keeps trying marriage, doesn't he? Vincent Hanna keeps trying marriage, even though he's on his the downslope of his third marriage. It's as difficult as his job makes it. He keeps trying that out because the alternative is becoming the Bob De Niro character. Not just that he's dead, but that he's walks out and anything he attaches himself to in 30 seconds flat when he feels the heat, i.e. the police, coming round the corner, chasing him. That's just not the way to live. It's difficult to be a really good criminal if you've got a wife and stuff like that. That's something he discusses through the course of the film over a coffee and that. But it's also well worth it. Just keep trying. I was the Vincent Hanna character. He just keeps picking love. He keeps choosing love, as difficult as it is, and he loves the family that he makes along the way, his stepdaughter and what have you. He chooses hope. I was writing off this entire Champions League tie before even the kind of horrible first leg. But a post from D. Anderson gets in touch with the podcast quite regularly. Nice wee tweets today. It was just a kind of, I think we can do it tonight, and but we'll be fine for Sunday as well. Just a kind of plain, simple, almost kind of non-emotional. Almost, it had me realising I was just fighting the inevitable pain by trying to not care at all. I was actively encouraging a bad result. Getting into this game tonight, I was like, I almost kind of wish we could just get it out of the way. It's too, but we can't afford to have anything go wrong in this game. Too wrong to pick up injuries and stuff like that, because we've got to go into the game on Sunday. We find Vettel, but we don't want to go into the Champions League because we'll get horsed every week. And or host every game, and it'll take up too much of our resources and that. And then Celtic went out of the Champions League last night. It was like, okay, right, we don't have to worry about them getting more money than us this season. So I was still saying, and then somebody going, I think we'll go in and we'll cope all right with it and pick up the 20, 25 million. How many millions or billions of pounds are you going to make if you qualify for the Champions League group stage? And I thought, aye, of course I want to qualify. Of course I want to qualify. I wasn't actively encouraging a bad result because I wanted it. No, I didn't. It's like, I am alone. I am not lonely. That's what the Robert De Niro character says when he meets Edie, and she says, "Are you lonely?" And he's like, "I'm alone. I'm not lonely." Yes, you are. You are lonely. Choose life. Choose the pain and the kind of privilege of love. Choose to try to get into the Champions League group stage. You do want that £45 billion that you'll get if you qualify. Like, you do want to play Real Madrid. You do want to play Paris Saint-Germain. You do want to do something better than Celtic before the season's even properly started. You win just for trying. When it comes to love, you only lose when you stop hoping that you're going to find love. And plus, imagine what kind of turning that tie around. Not only losing 3-1 at Ibrox, lost by 2 goals at home. We went to Nice last season and won 4-1. We went over to. We beat Fenerbahce 3-1 in their own backyard. They're in the Champions League qualifiers, the playoff rounds this season as well. So imagine what actually turning this tie around would do for the morale of the team, and it's just an instant kind of vindication of Russell Martin as the gaffer. We just go, it doesn't matter how much, even if we did it in extra time and penalties, we would have been flying into the game on Sunday, totally buzzing, and just blew Celtic away, and everything would be fantastic. I thought, aye, no, come on, there is a chance we can do this. I thought to myself, there is a chance we can do this. And then the game started. Then the match started. It was nice just to make me believe. I don't know. You feel that way. Is it because I didn't believe enough? Is that why it went so badly wrong? I was actually hoping we'd get beat. Well, this is what you wanted. Look at what's happening now. Do you want to get beat now? And I feel as if there's a message for the whole Rangers support. There are those Rangers supporters, should I say, who have consistently slagged off our achievements in Europe over the last 8 years, 7, 8 years, because they think somehow it just makes it more embarrassing that we can't win the league every season or every second season even. It makes it more embarrassing that we're not winning enough League Cups and Scottish Cups. It might actually be detrimental to us winning. This is what happens if you have to be careful what you wish for. I don't really know where to start, folks. I'm just rambling because it's just generally we get absolutely destroyed. All I'll say is that Russell Martin's last game in charge of Southampton, he was 5-0 down at half time, and they get beat 5-0 by Spurs at St Mary's. No more goals in the second half, quite an achievement. And he said to them at half time in that game, he said to the players, "That's me, I'm done for, I'm out of here. I'll be getting sacked, I'm gone. But just, I love you guys, and I want you to just, for your sake, for your own, don't go out there, don't make this any worse, just try harder in the second half." And he resigned, and that was it. And I wonder if that's what he said at half time tonight. When he did bring on Tav, he did bring on Nico Raskin, who he'd left out the starting lineup. Diamandi did come on, and he said, "Right, guys, that's it, I'm gone, I'm done. Yous win. Yous are going to have the dressing room under control again. It's going to be all yours. Just you go out and see what you can do in the second half." And we conceded 5 goals in the first half, only conceded 1 in the second half, so that's a vindication for them. They probably feel it's Belgians in it. Fucking Belgians. Philippe Clement, Club Brugge playing and managing legend, won the titles as both, won Belgian titles and cups as both player and manager with Club Brugge. Did Philippe Clement in his first game in charge of Rangers. Nico Raskin scores against Hibs, 4-0 win for the Belgian. And then when we beat the Belgians at Union Saint-Gilloise last season to miss out the knockout playoff round post group stage in the Europa League, that gave us our first free midweek for ages. And at the end of that free midweek, next weekend, we get put out the Scottish Cup by Queen's Park. It was the worst ever, arguably our worst ever domestic result, our worst ever domestic cup result, certainly. At Ibrox, only time it's ever happened that we've lost to a team from a league lower than ours in the domestic cup competition. So in the Scottish Cup, the Scottish Cup, St Johnstone put us out the League Cup, didn't they? As a first division side under Paul Le Guen, and he went as well. So that was, and then we have Nico Raskin. Doesn't get played tonight? Raskin, who scored against Union Saint-Gilloise last season for us, he's playing, and we're at the Jan Bredow, and we get absolutely destroyed. And it's the first time I've ever lost 5 goals in the first half of a European tie. I don't know. I don't to have got us single-handed to a European final in the past. I don't know. Is he part of the problem? Did he have to get dropped as well because he's too bossy? About half of our fans hate Tav anyway, so they can't be complaining when he gets dropped. It's just, I don't really know what it's lashing out. Last Sunday after the game at St Mirren, I went and I looked up YouTube to try and see if I could see the press conference, the proper press conference, not the post-match interview on Sky, but the one where he's facing all the hacks, the Rangers media, Rangers fan media, the mainstream media, the newspaper guys and what have you. He's sitting at the wee table, and as I was doing that, as I brought up YouTube, and I said, I only on YouTube, I only really use it to post my own stuff all about Rangers and look up other stuff about Rangers. And for some reason, the algorithm was bringing me up this video about, and I had to click on it because it's something. The thumbnail thing worked. The headline grabbed my attention, and it was about a 24-year-old guy whose head was found by his mum in her kitchen bin, and I think somebody else had done him in and chopped up. I think it was his girlfriend at the time that done him in and decapitated him and put his head in. Because it's in Wisconsin, it's in the States. Why has this brought this up in my? That's not the thing I usually watch. And I was like, it's just because it's sad and it's tragic and it's brutal. It's just obviously that it thinks because I watch lots of Rangers stuff I might be into it. It turns out it was a warning because tonight it was telling me what was going to happen to Rangers tonight, obviously, and then this evening when I was going to find out what I was sitting kind of flabbergasted, but really, what's going on there with the Russell Martin post-match interview on TNT. I'm going to need to see what he's saying to the Associated Press, etc. in the bowels of the Jan Bradel. So I went on to find the Rangers TV YouTube clip of his post-match interview, and the algorithm this time brought me up. It was on the wee thumbnails on the right-hand side of the screen. YouTuber killed by cartel. A guy's obviously Mexican, and he's got a baseball cap, and he's just taking his YouTube channel. And technically, even though the connotation of YouTuber is young person, and it's kind of interesting and lively, and gets to the point in less than 47 minutes. Technically, I am a YouTuber, and a YouTuber killed by cartel. And another one above that was outdoor YouTubers who didn't come home. It's a collection of a compilation of YouTubers. Just as a picture of a young guy, with kind of walking gear on, hill climbing gear on, and filming himself in a mountainside. So has he fallen off the mountain? Does he get ravaged by a bear? All these people die. Anyway, these young YouTubers that went outside and didn't come back home. I'm thinking this is a warning about Sunday, because the atmosphere on Sunday, something has to happen. I have backed Russell Martin. I've backed the not sacking of Russell Martin. Just didn't seem. I want to see how this goes. I want to see what we're trying to do here. And it's getting to the stage where I think Sunday maybe that's what you're going to get done in. Like somebody's going to come up and they're going to, you're that fat guy that I saw the other day saying Russell Martin wasn't scum. Because rightly or wrongly, everybody's been psyched up. Everybody, it is wrong. Psyching up. I'm hearing other folks saying other podcasts that he's arrogant. I hate him. I'm hating the manager and stuff like that. And then tonight, for the first time myself, I just at half time, we'd lost like the third goal in 6 minutes, and he's kind of going, what's it's on the sidelines going, what are they doing? And I'm like, you should know. You're supposed to know. This isn't good. I'm really not enjoying this. There's another half of this to go. This is one of the worst moments of my entire life. Or it could be. That's why I was a bit elated, because it turned out it wasn't. But falsely elated. It's just advanced relief. It didn't get any worse than 6. But I thought, no, this is Brighton Hove Albion won 6-0. That's your hometown team there, Russell. Brighton Hove Albion won 6-0 in the Carabao Cup tonight. I saw that come up in the sky. I don't know if the signs are there. The signs that they won 6-0. Well, you're getting beat 6-0 away from home, and I think they lost this. But the Southampton fans have been telling us all the way to the Championship season where he wins the playoff and all that with Southampton. They did get beat. Like 5 put past them a couple of times. I think they lost 5-0 at Sunderland and 5-1 maybe at Leicester. That was in the Championship, and then of course he went out with that 5-0 down to Spurs at half time. And I think a couple of games before that they'd lost. They'd conceded 5 goals at home, I think, to Chelsea. Chelsea beat them 5-1. So this isn't the first time this has happened to Russell Martin. It led to his sacking at Southampton, and that's what everybody's what is it. Sorry, folks, I am totally rambling. I'm exhausted and I'm shattered. I'm just basically shattered. But I keep wanting to do a short. My podcasts are far too long. They're getting far too rambly. But a lot of it is because there's so much. There's an ongoing crisis. There's it's really big news. We've got Champions League qualifiers to play. Not anymore, we don't. We've got Champions League qualifiers to play. We've got a really bad start in the league. They're making all these signings. We're selling guys. With Igaman going for $10.5 million today. It's like, oh, what a profit we made in the space of one season on the fella. No, we're supposed to get twice that. We've been done. We've been conned. It's Thelwell and Purdy are idiots. And it's hard to know. Everything's tense. Everybody's up in arms or ready to be up in arms. So it feels as if I have to say more on the podcast, try and get into it and give a podcast of at least the length, if not the quality that is merited by the ongoing situation. But something's got to happen between now and Sunday. He's got to get sacked, or Russell Martin has to be sacked, or we have to have some sort of a better press conference, a better press chat than we got from tonight. He was still talking like a man who had a plan. He was still talking like this was all part of the plan. And he specifically mentioned that he talked to Patrick and Kevin after the game. Patrick Stewart, Chief Executive, Kevin Thelwell, the Director of Sport or Football, or whatever it is, technical guy, the guy who signs it. He talked to them after the game and they assured him everything was fine. His job wasn't under threat, as the TNT interviewer was asking. He was quite vicious, that TNT interviewer, and tonight I was glad of it. He needed to prosecute this situation, and he was saying all these things about he was going to continue in the job, no chance of him getting sacked, etc. But that interview and the one in the Bills of the Jan Breidel, I don't know why it's always the Bills, the stadium that I've decided the press conferences happen, the proper, printed press kind of press conferences, podcasting press conferences, but in there he had the bearing of a man who was resigned to his fate, and trusting Patrick Stewart's back. And you should, while you're there, while you're in Belgium, while you're in the Jan Breidel Stadium, you should suss out, you should locate, you should source Philip Clement and see what he's got to say about Patrick Stewart giving you any kind of public backing, how much you can trust it. Gary Rowett, Oxford manager, I'm assuming this game was at the weekend. I was just flicking through the channels earlier on tonight, and it was Birmingham City beating Oxford United in the Championship, and it was Gary Rowett, and he was asked, they're on a bad run just now, Oxford United, and was it maybe losing that last minute win on the last game is perhaps affected the players' psychology, and he's like, psychologically, I think that will affect the players, but you got to work on that psychology. And I'm thinking, this is the Sky interviewer for English football is asking the manager of the football team, not Russell Martin announces that he's working his player psychology, and then the Sky pundits spends about 3 hours, in a wee corner of a windswept stadium in Paisley, slaughtering him for having mentioned something like the player's psychology. Even then, I'm getting instinctively defending Russell Martin as the day goes on, and I'm just thinking to myself, well, it wasn't fair they said that about Russell Martin. I don't know. I don't know how to react to this, folks. Usually what will happen in these podcasts, I did a bit with, try to put off Celtic fans, yeah, but the Rangers supporters who watch me, and it's mostly Rangers supporters who get in touch, obviously, although I don't think that'll be the case after this one. But you guys have been really nice, and the vast majority are very supportive of the pod to start with, which I really appreciate. But the vast majority of you are doubtful about Russell Martin, and I really have to thank you for being so nice about it as well. There's not really been many people get in touch going, hey, Boyd, he's shite. Just shut it. Shut it. Stop backing him. How can you back him, you happy clapper? You're part of the problem. I hope you're getting, obviously, where I come from, but obviously, he's just nice people as well. So I need to just, acknowledge the fact that I was wrong, you were right. That's what it looks like this now. I'm not going to give up just yet. No, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get that little announcement sometime on Thursday, sometime on Friday, saying, that's that. We got that wrong, says Kevin and Patrick. and maybe even, we've got Marath and Kavanagh apparently coming to the game on Sunday. I don't know if they were in Bruges tonight, but it's maybe it'll be for just no. Could you just step into the office? Well, I get you want me to get Russell Martin into the office. No, Kevin, you come in as well. And is Dan there? Bring him in as well. Patrick, well, I'll phone Patrick. Don't worry about Patrick. You'll not be seeing Patrick again. I don't know if it's going to be that kind of stuff going on between now and then, or is it going to be Raskin gets sold and we buy 4 new players? There's moves happening or due an explanation of the ruckus, whatever's going on between the manager and the players. It's going to have to be something pretty spectacular to stop the atmosphere on Sunday being toxic before Celtic even appear at Ibrox. Just toxic amongst ourselves. YouTubers who didn't get home. YouTubers, fat football YouTubers who went to a home game but didn't get home, like to their house, kind of thing. I'll be in that compilation soon. Now that's what I call dead YouTuber 4. It's terrible for the league, though, isn't it? It's terrible for the league. Oh, it's awful. The coefficient of the Scottish, the Premiership, the Scottish Premiership, the coefficient. I heard Alan McCoy saying that the night during the commentary. Ali, 8-2. Ali, why would you go down that line as well? No fucking way. Excuse my language, but fuck that shit. This whole kind of. Oh, it's we now. Celtic went out to Kairat Almaty last night, or Tuesday night. By the time you're watching this pod, it'll be Thursday. And suddenly it was kind of, I was getting wee vibes, messages for photos, just seeing wee articles here and there, and we put, we're all in it together, really. We're really all in it together. Suddenly the old kind of first person plural pronoun was appearing. Suddenly it was a shame for all Scottish clubs, that we couldn't get into the Champions League and we're all doing so badly, and our teams weren't doing well in Europe. Our teams, that's kind of, it's all about what benefits everyone financially in Scotland, apparently. But sharing the pot, we're going to share the pot. It just doesn't help the coefficient if you want to shove it up your cowardly wee hypocritical shitters from whence half this country collectively shat itself in 2008 when it looked like a Scottish team was going to win a European trophy. Anti-football! It's Make them play 10 games in a fortnight. Punish them for doing well in Europe. God forbid these bastards win a European trophy. Welcome home, losers, it said in the banners over the M74 as I was heading to Motherwell for the game at Fir Park on the Saturday after the wee trip down to Manchester on the Wednesday. Just the fucking anti-football. It's anti-football. Dunfermline are cheating. They're cheating professionals. They're cheating professional footballers. They're insulting football because we lost a European final to Porto 2 or 3 days earlier. But it doesn't matter if Rangers have underwritten every TV deal for the last 20 years or co-underwritten it and even warned you against the Satanta deal. But no, you just went ahead with that anyway. And for a century before that, they sold out every away end, any ground we visited. The away end, at least, it was just to get them out of our division, get them into the bottom tier. Die, your club's dead. There was a real concern for the fact that Rangers had consistently, been in Europe, or done quite well in Europe over the decades, raising the coefficients. That certainly wasn't. They didn't even want us in the top flight. Didn't even want us. I didn't think we should be in the top flight either after everything that happened. But everybody was going, let's sell out Saturday, let's make sure we keep the crowds up without Rangers so we can have it didn't work, did it? No, and we had to reconstruct the entire Scottish game. No one gave a shit about the health of Scottish football then, so you can fuck your coefficient. And the second it looks like Rangers are going to win, I've just people in Scotland would destroy the entire sport before they would let Rangers win, slandering referees and administrators until they get awarded the trophy. He didn't even complete the league season. Imagine Rangers was like, it's 29 league games played, they're 30. That's close enough. We'll take the trophy just now. Thanks. Fucking outrage. Masonic conspiracy. We've been told for a decade that Callum McGregor's domestic trophy haul means so much more than James Tavernier. He's got so many more trophies than James Tavernier. That means Rangers are losers. James Tavernier dragging Rangers almost single-handedly through every post-group stage knockout round into the final. He captained them and takes the first penalty in the shootout, scores that penalty. That was losers. It was a loser. Didn't count for anything, you know, because it was all about how many domestic trophies. And now suddenly it's like, oh, we're so kind of internecine, aren't we? We're so petty that's. We need to help each other out and concentrate on the betterment of the game so we can all do better in the get to the European group stages and that kind of thing. Fuck yous. Aye, very good. Why the hand wringing about Scottish football now? Fuck you all. And I'm including in this every Rangers fan who slagged their European achievements because they couldn't win the SPFL Premiership. So it's like I've had Rangers fans saying to me, "But we lost that European final in Seville." Doesn't it? Just one of the greatest things that ever happened to me in my entire life. We've reached half of Scotland's European finals, Rangers. We've reached 5 European finals. The new firm and the rest of the old firm have reached 5 between them. And some of them were better than the ones we've reached. That's fine. That's fine. But if you're saying, on Sunday, the old firm, I don't want to be half of anything. We're not half of anything. Well, we are half of Scotland's European trophy, European final haul. So that's fine. We'll take that to ourselves. Fuck you. Don't start telling me we're all in it together. So pile in. You want to slag Rangers, you want to folk want to get up. If you're visiting, just get stuck in because I couldn't stand the hypocrisy of trying to make out that we're all in it together and stuff like that. I want nothing to do with these, and I know that I have to. Obviously, it's the coefficient how it works and that, but UEFA can just pile ahead with a desire to have super leagues and various other kind of leagues to the point where hopefully it won't be the demographic won't be to do with the league that you're in, the domestic situation that you're in, the countries politically. It'll just be you. We're a club with a 50,000 capacity stadium, whatever. And we've been in 5 European finals before. We should be entitled to more coefficient points than Bournemouth. Pettiness isn't the problem in Scottish football. It's the fuel. No, we're a team for Catholics. We're a team for Protestants. Any more small-minded in the entire planet than that kind of crap, that divides us up as people to support football teams on religious grounds. Absolute garbage, and yet we're all right into it, and that's what's created these 2 mammoth clubs who can get to European finals despite coming from a nation of 5 million. So, obviously you've got to think outside the box or whatever, blah, blah, blah. I mean, Celtic couldn't score over 210 minutes against the champions of Kazakhstan, and here's Rangers conceding 9 goals over 2 legs to a Belgian side. They've got to get together and talk. Have we we've hated each other for years, trying to outdo each other all the time. That's where the real fuel, that's where the real energy comes from. But we'll all have to lump in together and try and sort out the coefficient. I won't be doing it with any kind of. I want Hibs and Aberdeen to get destroyed tonight as well. But that's whatever. Dejan Stankovic's son is in. It's practically an Inter Milan kit, isn't it? The Schwarz-Blau of Brugge, and they're battering that. He's battering the bottom. That's Dejan Stankovic's son. God, that's a bit. That was the least of our problems, wasn't it? The kick-off the night we were wearing the tracksuit top. Teams are lining up before the game. The tracksuit top was kind of purpley, the red and the blue, and it almost was reflected by the flares that have been set off behind it in the little away corner, which was in the Jan Breidel Stadium, which the front row, it's the top tier of a double-decker stand, and the front row of that stand is probably at the height of the roof, the old roof of the old away end in Jan Breidel, where we all were. I wasn't there, but where the Rangers support was, but Peter Hoystra scored into back in 1993 in the Champions League group stage, where we drew 1 each, but our unbeaten record in Jan Breidel went out the window tonight. But they weren't there with the flares we're going after. It was all the pyro was absolutely fantastic. The red of that, the red and the purple of our kit, and then as the game's kicking off, or they're getting ready to kick on, Zadok the priest playing that kind of thing, and we take off our tracksuit tops, and it's the all white, and it's so dissipating. The flares have become the white smoke coming out onto the park, and you're thinking, this is a sign. This is a sign it's absolutely going to be absolutely fine. It's like we're like the Turks or like the Poles that turn up at Ibrox for away games, and at least you go, oh my God, they're crazy. Look at the stuff. They're setting the place on fire and that. Just they don't care as long as that's what we look like. The Rangers support on that wee corner up there. And I thought, we are huge. This ground only holds less than 30,000. We're the big deal here. We're the team. They've only been in 2 European finals. We've been in 5. We should turn this round. We could turn this round, but it'd been turned against us. I think as early as last night in the pre-match presser, Tuesday night. The manager in the bowels of the Barrow Stadium talking about a cryptic line he had about when we win something, I can tell you about what's happened. Basically, obviously saying I need to come from if you start complaining about what's been happening behind the scenes, what's behind our poor form at this point in time at the start of the season, then I'll look like I'm just making excuses. When we win something, I'll be in a position of strength. Then I can give you the skinny, That's what it sounded like. That's what it came across like. I think, what's that all about? And then an hour before kick-off, so the Nico Raskin wasn't playing, Tav wasn't playing, Diamandi being dropped or benched, them all being benched. I thought, well, that's fair enough. We knew Igaman wasn't going to be playing because he was away, but Diamandi, he's been terrible really this season, and of course a lot of us think it's because of the way the manager's deploying him on the field, the way Russell Martin's deploying him, the head coach, but he wasn't a big loss at this point in time. Raskin, I was positing this kind of barroom bore theory after the game on Sunday, the way Raskin was on the park, on his back at full time. It was kind of attention seeking, kind of saying I'm the guy that was trying hardest here. If I can't help this team, who can, And it's a one each draw against St Mirren, and it reminded me for all the world of Barry Ferguson's reaction at the end of the one each draw with St Mirren at Ibrox between Christmas and New Year in late December 2006. 2006-2007, when he's trying to get rid of Paul Le Guin, and this is just garbage. What we're playing is garbage. It's all wrong. And you can see that same energy, that I know better than this new manager kind of approach, and there's strong air of Gavin Ray, how Gavin Ray was being used, the hopes that Paul Le Guin had for Gavin Ray to kind of put Barry Ferguson in his place by dropping Barry and putting that aura was around poor Thello Asgard tonight. I thought it was on Sunday as well. It's like Russell Martin's hoping for so much from Asgard that people will stop worrying about Tav and Nico Raskin. There's definitely tension there. They're definitely falling out, I would imagine. You could maybe argue that he was resting Raskin for Sunday. I don't know. We had this whole thing to play Joe Rothwell from the start. Joe Rothwell, who we can see is knackered, is getting steadily worse the more games he plays. Definitely needs a break, if nothing else. I'm hearing rumours that he's not fully fit, but there's rumours about everything just now. But he looks like he's going backwards fitness-wise. And then on Sunday, he's admitted himself, Joe Rothwell, I'm not fully at it. I'm a bit tired or whatever. I'm not playing at my best one. And then he starts, and Nicolas against a team who were 3-0 up against us after 20 minutes last week, and we know that they're going to be serious at home. There's no way this was just about trying to give Raskin a break. We weren't in a position where we could afford to rest anybody, any kind of first choice player tonight, because this was all about, even if we weren't expecting to go through, we weren't expecting to reverse the score from the first leg. Rangers never have, losing a first leg at home. They've never turned it round in the second leg. But it was about not taking a doing, if nothing else. Keeping it respectable, getting the confidence up, because this is still a nascent team. It's a bit of a project for Russell Martin. He needs a bit of confidence to get up. It was about making sure we didn't take a doing before we played Celtic on Sunday. And you wouldn't want to do anything stupid like, go down to 10 men and make it even harder for yourselves, take even more out the legs, have Finlay, Curtis coming on, Lyle Cameron getting praised for carrying on despite basically having cramp or something, but we just ruined him, one of our best players so far this season. Ruined him for the game on Sunday. You want to be fielding your best 11, to give yourself a chance of getting through this game in the best way possible to go into Sunday against Celtic, first Old Firm derby of the season, and the best fit, but especially when they'll be toiling, when they've had a humiliating week, a midweek in Europe as well, or 2 midweeks, same as ourselves. We want Burman's taking advantage. We're at home. We've not to travel to Asia, basically, and back. But no, we managed to even that up straight away. I don't. So it's obvious. It must be a fallout. Shug, who gets in touch with and has been he's one of the fellas that's been saying, "Oh, it's not working under this guy at all." And I'm like, I just want to see Shug. I just want to see. Might be all right. Just stick with it now, and it'll be fine. It's not working. So he gets in touch and he's saying, we're talking about the team that had been picked, that had been announced, and he was saying that the guy that everybody knew the team apparently because there's this leak. There's a leak in the dressing room, which is really good as well for Russell Martin. As much as he plays it down, it just makes us look totally incompetent. And the same person that told him that the team was going to be ahead of time told him that Tav and Raskin had been told they could find new clubs, and these are the kind of rumours, true or not. It seems very believable with what's happening tonight. I don't know why you wouldn't play Tav tonight because we played Max Aarons. I don't know why you wouldn't play Tav and Raskin, have the two of them on the bench. And we had to go with Danilo up front as well. Again, he's just so lightweight in a way that you really don't need away from home in Europe. Cyril Dessler's obviously not fully fit or about to be sold. We never really know these days. But I was worried an hour before kick-off when the team was announced. We're off to the West Flanders field. We're the cockpit of Europe, Belgium, the cockpit of Europe, and there's a major battle, it seems to me, going on between the players and the head coach. If you don't like Russell Martin, what happened thereafter will not have changed your mind. 3 minutes, left back, McLoma, he gets booked. 5th minute, we're a goal down. 8th minute, right back gets sent off in the left back's part of the pitch. And that's it. After that, it's just an absolute horror show. I think we're okay for the first minute. I think Rory Hamilton said something about the 3rd minute saying, this time last week Rangers were already a goal down. And like, I suppose it is that. And then that was it. McLoma get booked. You think, he's up against it. He might get sent. Oh no, we're a goal down. Oh no, it's the right back that's going to get sent off. But he's come over to the left back position to make sure he gets sent off. And I'm seeing people saying that he looks like he was just chucking it. Max Aarons looks like he couldn't wait to get out of it. He just wanted to get out of there. And you can't really... You can't completely pour cold water on that. It doesn't seem completely hysterical to be saying stuff like that, because what then happened, usually when I'm doing these post-match reaction pods, when it's an away game and I've been watching it on the television, I'm watching it live on the telly because I'm in the house, and I'm not talking to anybody or that. I'm just sitting. I can take a few wee notes. I thought I must mention that in my podcast, my post-match reaction pod. And there'll be a break in play, and watching Rangers away from home, there's usually lots of breaks in play. It's usually very, very slow. So there's lots of time to sit and take. I'll just take a wee note of that, I can mention it, and it ends up turning into a bit of a kind of half-arse, but a bit of a wee match report. I have a wee section where it's just basically a match report. I'll go through what happened, the main events, minute 10, minute 20, minute 30, in the first half, and then what happened at half time and blah blah blah. That's not only is it inappropriate because just. Basically, I mean, Bruges destroyed us, absolutely destroyed us, and Rangers destroyed themselves. We imploded as well. We forgot how to play football. It's the worst I've seen at this level of football. It can't be the worst Rangers performance I've ever seen, because I have seen us playing in the 4th tier of Scottish football and losing, and that. But it's. I don't know how to word it. I don't know how to phrase it. As with all Rangers kind of achievements and lows, there's a kind of caveat that makes it a bit complicated, that you can't just spit it like we did the worst Champions League group stage ever, 2022, 2023. Well, no, really, because there was teams that conceded more goals than us in that campaign, and there was also plenty of teams historically have finished with 0 points in the old 4-team group format and that, but we kind of combined just enough of the other bits to make it particularly bad. But it wasn't really but it was bad enough. When we beat Real Betis, that's the first time we've won in Spain in European competition. We can't, because we actually remember we won the Cup Winners' Cup in finals in Barcelona, the Cup Winners' Cup in '72. But it was Moscow Dynamo we beat in the final. It was a neutral venue, so Queen's Park beating us in the Scottish Cup. That's the worst ever. It's the only time we've ever lost to a lower league club. Well, it isn't, because Raith Rovers put us out of the Scottish Cup in 2014-15 at Ibrox. But we were in the Championship, and they were both in the Championship, so they weren't from a league lower than us, but we're both lower league teams. So it's not kind of it's that, and it's the same thing with this night. I'm trying to work out how to express it. The one thing I can tell you for sure is we have never been 5-0 down at half time. We've never conceded 5 goals. We've conceded 5 goals in the second half of the first leg of the 1959-60 European Cup semi-final. Eintracht Frankfurt beating us 6-1. It was one each at half time. And they'd scored 5 against us in the second half, that game. Just as with Liverpool, we played Liverpool in the 2022-2023 Champions League at Ibrox in the group stage. It was one each at half time. Then they scored 6 goals in the second half. So we've conceded more goals in a half, but that's the first time. When we lost 6-0 to Real Madrid in the Bernabeu in 1963, we were 1-0 down from the first leg at Ibrox, and we were 4-0 down at half time in that one. And Real Madrid scored 2 in the second half. Same as when Cologne beat us 5-0 in the Mungersdorfer in the second leg in the 82-83 UEFA Cup match. They scored 4 in the first half, and they scored the 5th one in the second half. So it's the first time I've ever conceded 5 goals in the first half in Europe anyway. I imagine we must have done it at some point in our long domestic history, but it's the first and only time we've done it in Europe. It may never happen again. It was just a barrage. It was just unbelievably. We brought Tav on. We took Ant-Man off, who's not been doing too well since his sensational debut against Victoria Pilsen. And you have that whole thing where people are saying, well, that's because he started the game against Victoria Pilsen at Ibrox when we won 3-0. He started against them straight off the plane, basically. He hadn't had a chance for Russell Martin to coach the badness into him, to coach the incompetence into him. But at the same time, that game against Victoria Pilsen at Ibrox, our best performance under Russell Martin, the goals stopped. We were 3-0 up, and then we brought on Tav and we brought on Raskin. And that's when the goals stopped. So you can look at it. I don't know. There's different ways of looking at it. I don't think it's that straightforward. We don't know what's going on so far. But Ant-Man come off anyway, and we brought on Tav, and we tried to change it about. And it did take until the 32nd minute, I think it was, before we conceded the second goal. But we were horrendous. We were horrific. And this is what people have been saying. Touch me, like Panathinaikos could have scored 10 against us. Jack Butland was amazing in that game. Victoria Pilsen and Panathinaikos could have scored 10 against us in the home leg, the game at Ibrox and the game in Athens. And Victoria Pilsen, the second leg, they could easily have reversed the 3-0 that we beat them in the first leg, because we were defensively horrific that night. But and sometimes I'm always kind of worried, because I don't, I'm not a trained coach or tactician or anything. You learn to realise that the results. Sometimes what you think's lucky, what you think's getting off with, blah blah. But you guys you were right. Somebody's going to give us a real scalp, and I'm like, well, they haven't so far. So I don't know. Is it? We're going to get better, obviously. No, we're getting worse, and that it happened tonight. All the chickens come home to roost tonight, and even then, you get Jack Butland. I will never slag Jack Butland again. I had a right go at Jack Butland on Gersnet last season. I was in a bad mood at the time about other things as well, but I pop at his whole kind of self-help type attitude. Now, I don't mind Russell Martin's self-help type attitude, type kind of vibe, because it's a nice one. But I thought Jack Butland's was kind of, private school, privileged bully type kind of thing, the way he came across and all that. I just thought it was... But basically it's because he'd done that whole thing where he was interviewing the Rangers board, basically to see if we were worth him staying with Rangers for another season after the end of his first season. He's on a flight to a pre-season thing or something like that. I was just talking to the directors and I was finding out, what were their plans for the club, and was it... And I thought, very good, pal, you're not actually that good. You're not good enough to justify that kind of stuff. And I thought, you're a bit full of yourself. And obviously, tremendously wobbly moments. And it got so bad for Jack Butland last season that I actually started feeling sorry for him. I couldn't slag him. I'm not like that anyway, generally. There's very few Rangers players I actively dislike. Joey Barton, Ian Black, and Jack Butland got a bit close, but I'll never slag him again. He's the only reason we've got this far. He's not the only reason, obviously, but he got us through the game against Panathinaikos. He got us through certainly the second leg against Pilsen, and he did well last weekend, last midweek, to stop us probably losing 6-1 at Ibrox, to Club Brugge, and I think we can automatically, officially now call the first goal definitely Giga's fault. Jack Butland can just be excused of any blame for that because of what he did tonight. He should be awarded no blame for what happened last week. They said it was 10 great saves he had in the game, 10 good, and it felt like it at the time. One that was so good we didn't even know he had saved it, and that's you getting into Alan McGregor territory. One of the many raking, rasping shots Bruce seemed to be having from outside the box when it suited them. And he touched it, they thought it'd come back off the bar. I think they hit the bar twice in the first half. They seemed to hit the post a couple of times as well. A few going narrowly past, a few being saved down on the line by Jack Butland, getting down to them as well. But he'd actually touched this one onto the bar, fingertip stuff. It was a sensational save. He really did. It could have been 10 by half time because we weren't tackling, we weren't tracking back, we weren't following our runners and tracking our runners and that kind of thing. It was, they couldn't, headers. Oh Jesus Christ! Jesus, I've never seen a worse Rangers team when it comes. This is one. I must have seen worse Rangers teams because we played in the 4th division, But when it comes to the aerial stuff, we have nothing, and we've got big guys in that team. We've got 2 big centre halves, and there's nothing. There's just no defensive capability, no defence. When people are putting high balls into our box, it's abysmal, absolutely abysmal. And Bruges were just kind of camped outside our box, then inside our box, and it was getting to the point where we were kicking about the 6-yard box and just picking the crosses, was moving from post to post. They're even doing this thing where we kept leaving. I know it was a fullback that gets sent off, but we brought another fullback on, and we kept leaving the massive space on one wing, so you could do the switch over. Bruges just look up, they've got nobody out there, and they'd put the ball right over to the other, and it was deep on our wing. I think that's what Stephen Presley's Dundee did to us at Ibrox, and it worked for them. They just leave masses of space on one side while they swamped the Rangers player who had the ball. So we couldn't see the space over the other side. We couldn't get the ball worked out, back and work round horseshoe style over to the other side of the pitch. But we were even bad at that. It was just we couldn't. Bruges are good. This is this is the 7th time in the last 8 seasons that they've been in the Champions League. They've reached the Champions League group stages. You're welcome, and you can see the continuity there as well. Like a lot more continuity than us as a club. I think the whole infrastructure and also the manager, etc. But they're Champions League group stage. But they're not. I don't know if they're that good. I don't know if it was a lot of it was us. We just lost it. Remember the away end at Dens Park? Before the Bobby Cox and the Shankly stands at Dens Park, the old away end at Dens Park was really shallow, and it would go as you went back up it. You tried to go further up it to get a better view. It started going back down the way. It was like a wee hill, but it was 2 sides of the hill, and you terraced, like there was upside down bits of terrace and round the back, and you're like, I can't even see that. You're looking over at Tannadice, it would go further back. It was a bit like that. The more Rangers seemed to be trying to do anything, the further away they got from playing football. It was we just fell to pieces. There was more to this than we've signed the wrong players or they're tactically confused. I think tactical confusion seems one of the likelier. They're being overloaded with new tactical information. They don't know what they should be doing, but there also seemed a kind of a despondency that spoke of something's going on in the dressing room. I'm just imagining that it is the old guard, the people that have been there longer, the existing players like Tav. And remember when Raskin had to captain the team, Tav was injured or whatever, and he got interviewed, and he said, "Oh, Tav's fucking amazing." He accidentally swore or whatever like that. He just loves Tav. So they're all right with each other. They've worked it out, even though Raskin's maybe the best player at Ibrox, Tav's the legend, who he knows about doing it. He knows about getting you about a European final and stuff like that. There's nothing you can teach Tav. He's the athlete as well, even though he's getting on a bit. So they've got their respect for each other, but that also quickly becomes a clique, and the new manager comes in and wants to get rid of them, split it up. He's got his own methods of how things are going to be done. I just feel as if they're at loggerheads with each other, and it's a bit of a war that's going on there, and we are the casualty, the supporters and the rest of the players. I think it might also be a case of Ant-Man was great against Victoria Pilsen at Ibrox because he hadn't had a chance to get sucked into one of the cliques or, get into the gossip or that in the dressing room. I'm just imagining this. I have no proof of it whatsoever, other than the strange selection decisions and the fact that the manager absolutely tore strips off them after the failure to try hard enough at Fir Park, as far as he was concerned. And it seemed like he'd had that locked and loaded from watching the videos for last season. I know Patrick Stewart's been talking to him. Anyway, we'll get into that in a wee second. My weirdo theories, but we kept trying to. We couldn't do anything. We just couldn't do anything at all in that first half. And it got to like 32 minutes, and we're only 2-0 down. One of the goals is a header for a corner, one of the many corners we lost that we're constantly winning. I can't really remember much about the first goal. And then it was about 41 minutes to in injury time in the first half. We conceded 3 goals in 6 minutes altogether. It was the 41st minute to what would be the 47th minute. And it was, I think they were starting to come back up the park again. And 42 minutes and 30 seconds, it could have been 6-0 by half time. It was just down to Club Brugge. If they wanted to score, they were going to score. Some of them were shooting wasn't very good. They were kind of rushing it at times, and it's just as well for us. There was a bit in the second half, just at the start of the second half. I don't know if it was just before they scored the 6th goal or just after, but it's early in the second half where the big number 20, their captain, big tall, kind of rakish guy, he's got the ball. I don't think it was on the penalty spot. I think it was closer to the 6-yard box than the penalty spot. He's like about 10 yards out from our goal line, and we've gone by this point. We've put on 3 subs and we've gone 5-4, just blocking it. Just put 2 lines in front of everything, and that entire 10 Rangers players, including the goalie, are all apparently behind the ball in this 8 yard of space, and he's doing what, like my wee nephew when he was a toddler, and he'd want to play football. And I would have the ball at my mother-in-law's, my father-in-law's, or whatever, through their house. I'd just be like, you just that thing. You just roll the ball back and forth. You just go left, you go right, whatever. And they can't get. That was the entire Rangers defence. Was like somebody who's just learned to walk. Never mind run. Never mind actually control of it. But just kind of looking at a football, being dazzled by the old uncle who's giving it, go this way, go that way, and it was like he was trying to play in the young fellas, the young fella that scored a couple of goals. Towards the end of the first half, he's trying to put. I'm going to get another goal. You want to take it in your left foot? You've missed it. It was just the contempt for us. It was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. It was fully embarrassing. It was totally embarrassing. It was the definition of that phrase. It was just unbelievable. Dads versus kids at the back door. It was in the entire second half. I was just thinking, I'm going to see us concede 7 for only the second time in my life, and 8 for the first. Knowing 10 was almost inevitable because Bruges didn't stop. The Club Brugge, they were going for it. They made a couple of substitutions, but they were just going. They were on it. They were sharp. But I think what's eventually happened is we've been so bad that it's lulled them to sleep. They've been lulled to sleep by the ease of their own possession. So they lost focus and they lost their edge because they really didn't need it. And I think they decided to start to prepare for their game against, I think it's Ghent they're playing at lunchtime on Sunday. Mentally they kind of checked out. But I was even trying to think to myself, what's all the processes you go through mentally when something like this is happening? It's no often that Rangers get beat by this amount of goals, that something's this bad, but when you're having a really bad day watching Rangers, what is it you kind of think? I usually think to myself, well, this is just what goes around comes around, and you've got to kind of be mature about it. Obviously, you can't win every game. You're due a gobbing every now and then, and you know what it feels like to be a supporter of one of the teams that Rangers destroys at Ibrox regularly. And I'm thinking, when was the last time we destroyed MD Ibrox? When was the last time we destroyed a Scottish team? No, Fraserburgh last season. That just led to us getting put out of the Scottish Cup by Queen's Park of the Championship. It's not good. It's just not good. We went a long period in the second half. We were going longer and longer without conceding that 7th goal. But I just kept thinking, well, so what? We went like 25-minute period in the first half without conceding a 2nd goal. And then the roof fell in at the end of the first half. But we'd gone to 5 at the back. At half time, we'd brought on Raskin, Diamandi, and Finlay Curtis. And I don't know if that was the same as his wee speech. Maybe Russell Martin did the same thing he did at Southampton at half time, 5-0 down. to Spurs. They were 5-0 down to Club Brugge. Maybe he's saying, well, right, lads, I'm out of here. Just can have control of the dressing room again. Just go out there and keep it respectable. And well, it was past the point of respect, but they did only concede one goal in the second half, so they kept it in line. We've never been 5-0 down before at half time. As I was saying before, we lost 6 goals in both legs, in each of the 2 legs against Eintracht Frankfurt in 1959-60 European Cup semi-final. The following season, we reached our first ever European final when we lost 7-1 to Liverpool. Liverpool in the Champions League group stage in 2022-2023. That was the same year. It was 5 months after we'd played in a European final when we lost 6-0 in the Bernabeu in 63-64. We won the treble that season, but also that was the greatest, arguably. They were on the downslope by that point, Real Madrid. They got to the final that season, they lost to Inter. But they won it again in 66 with a few more changes, Real Madrid. But that's essentially, they still had Di Stefano and Puskas, the guys who'd won the first 5 European Cups in the trot. Puskas and Di Stefano getting 7 goals each across those 5 finals. Di Stefano scoring in all of them. So that's probably the greatest team ever in European club competition. So it was no disgrace. It was awful, I would imagine, at the time. But Bruges aren't that good. Bruges aren't in that kind of level. But maybe we shouldn't write off our chances of doing anything in the near future just because we've lost 6-0. Or maybe it's a case of, no, this is different. This is just... I was delighted we'd only lost 3-1 at home last week, and I found myself kind of strangely delighted when the final whistle was blown 4 seconds into injury time. The Bruges manager walked up. What's the guy's name? Hayes. That's terrible. Sorry, but he walks up to Russell Martin on the touchline. The cameras showed it, and I'm thinking it's only 90th minute. They've not even shown. It was 89 minutes something. They've not even put up the board showing you how much injury time there's going to be, and there's been a few subs. There's always injury time. And he's hugging Russell Martin, practically giving him a kiss. And I'm thinking, you're patronising, you're part of us patronising the pre-match press conference as well. You're doing that Jose Mourinho thing of, I'll just come up and I'll wish you all the best just now because the game's done. We've beat you. And I'm going to spend the next 2 or 3 minutes just talking to all my substitutes and stuff like that. I'll get down the tunnel nice and early. And I thought, but no, it was because he knew the referee was going to blow right on 90 minutes. He probably just heard for the 4th official there'd be no injury time. That's the biggest result we got all night. It didn't turn into our worst ever, just equaling our worst ever European defeats. It didn't go. At one point, I really did think for that entire 40 minutes it was going to go to 10. It was going to get into double figures. And last Friday night, was it? I was slagging other Rangers supporters who'd left after 20 minutes against Bruges in the first leg at Ibrox. No, what are you doing that for? That's so disloyal. It's fit, but you've paid big money for the fit. You might as well think, sometimes it's good to be there with your team when they're going through a bad time. And we only lost the game by 2 goals anyway. I mean, you've missed a Rangers goal. It could have went 3-2. We had a goal disallowed. It could have went the other way. And tonight I'm watching the supporters up in the wee away stand. Apparently they've been the wee corner of the away stand. Apparently they've been singing songs, telling Russell Martin to get to fucking stuff like that. I never heard it coming across the telly. It was the interviewer for TNT that was telling us afterwards, telling Russell Martin. But I saw folk applauding, and I'm thinking, I mean, me who's in the house sitting there, I haven't bothered to go to Bruges to follow the team. The Rangers supporters are applauding. I was like, what are you applauding them for? If you don't want to abuse them the way the folks sitting next to you are obviously abusing our own players as they come up and try to give you a bit of applause for turning up, trying to acknowledge you, that's understandable, but don't applaud them. You can't applaud that. You can't applaud that. You cannot give them a round of applause for losing 6-0 in Europe, even if it's maybe not their fault or whatever. Maybe it's completely the manager's fault, but I don't know what else to tell these folk. This pod's going far too long anyway. 4 seconds of injury time. A 9-1 aggregate in Game 10. This is Game 10. So we now know for sure that, I was telling my pal Robert, he saw this thing on follow, which I keep meaning to try and find, but I forgot, maybe you've seen it. It was a Southampton fan, got in touch, and follow, and he just posted something about what Russell Martin was like, and he said it's Game 10. He takes 10 games, Game 10, we've got to wait for, and we're thinking, he takes 10 games, of bad results, and then they're ready to go. In Game 11, by this point, we knew it was going to be Celtic at Ibrox. That'd be great. Or is it Game 10 that you'll see the Russell Martin plan finally coming to fruition. Uh, that's for the board to decide. I would like to think it's obviously not the case at game 10, but game 11 has 11 like 1-1 written all over it. Right now, 10 saves from Jack Butland in game 10, 9-1 aggregate, 10 goals across the two games. I don't want to be part of this kind of rabble rousing, the Real Housewives of Govan County hysteria, but at the moment, Martin either needs to say sacked or we need some sort of major kind of transfer news or to find out what the hell went on with the players, what's going on here. If there needs to be some tension. Actually, I want there to be a major problem between the players and the managers just now because this is unacceptable. Otherwise, it's the only excuse for it. I know it's blah blah blah. Bruges played 4-2-3-1 as well. Fine win, so they played 4-2-3-1 the night. Their former captain and manager couldn't make that work in the SPFL Premiership, which it made us solid, historically solid. Our first ever win in Spain against Spanish opposition in Europe, especially away from home. But maybe it helped us think that we're players, under Philippe Clement, getting us straight into the last 16 of the Europa League, 2 seasons in the bounce. Maybe that's helped us think that our players are so chuffed with what they were doing in Europe, they couldn't be arsed with a kind of small fry in domestic games. They thought they were too good for it, and that's why we had these terrible results under them, under Philip Clement, under Barry Ferguson, against Motherwell, Dundee, St Mirren as well. Well, these Billy Big Boss players were gone tonight. They didn't start, so maybe it's Russell Martin actually attacking the real problem at the core of the club, a problem that Rangers fans were quite willing to diagnose. See, Marathon Kavanagh must be watching Bruges and thinking, let's just have some of this. This ground holds less than 30,000. Let's just buy this whole lot and move them en masse to Ibrox, or let's just forget Rangers, sell them and buy Club Brugge. Not enough harmony or care for each other. That's what Russell Martin said. The post-match interview on TNT was a thing of curiosity. Very interesting. Thing of wonder, perhaps. He said there's not enough harmony or care for each other. That was the problem tonight. I thought that's not helping you, Russell. That is not helping you. I know what you're saying, mate, but the Bears do not want to hear about harmony or care for each other. We've got to heal and get through this. He said, a team knocking in 3 goals against us in 6 minutes. I saw that with Mo Salah in the Champions League group stage. The record, 6.5 minutes, scores a hat-trick, and Club Brugge, it wasn't the same player, but they rattled in 3 goals in 6 minutes against us in the playoff tonight. But we have to heal and get through this. I guess it's woke, it's self-help, it's everybody that's slagging you for being a vegan and slagging you for drinking herbal tea and stuff like that, being a Buddhist. Not that why you should be slagged for these things, I don't know, but you're wishy-washy. I mean, obviously it's hard as nails as a player. That what he played in the Championship and that. But no, this is not going to go down well with the Bears that hate you already. Maybe it's no point in trying to convince them, but we knew what was coming. We have to build that with the group somehow. We knew it was coming, and this is the weird thing. We knew it was coming. He's talking as if it's Patrick and Kevin. The interviewer asked him, you fear for your own job just now. He's like, no, I've already talked to Patrick and Kevin, obviously straight after the final whistle, and my job is not under threat. They're amazingly supportive, he's saying. And this thing where he keeps saying, intimating that they knew this was going to happen. I think that's been there from the word go. From the moment he arrived, he's been hinting at this. There's not enough players who want to fight for each other or the club yet. That's more like it. This is what I want to hear, Russell. There's not enough players who want to fight for each other or the club yet, but the window shuts on Monday, and I'm sure that will change. That was given out. He immediately kind of dials it back. The interview was really good. I don't usually like to see the Rangers manager getting a hard time, but this stuff had to be explained. This result had to be explained. This performance had to be explained. And he kind of dialed it back a bit. I just mean there's no harmony at the club as a whole. These players are trying their hearts out, but just maybe a bit more harmony as a group. But he means there's certain players I'm going to get rid of, and that'll be good. And there's certain players that are going to come in and replace these. And I just have to think Raskin and Tav, the guys he's dropping tonight, are the guys he wants rid of. We have to accept the pain, accept the hurt, accept the humiliation we should all feel, and use it for fuel for Sunday. That's fair. It really hurts. It is humiliating tonight, and he was apologising to the fans, ones that travelled and the ones that watched it at home. But he kind of paraphrased it. When he got asked initially what went wrong tonight, he kind of paraphrased how the game went, and he paraphrased it wrongly. But it was also as if it was happening to somebody else, as if it was nothing to do. He was a neutral observer. He just started off really well, but then we give the ball away, and that's us with a goal down, and then we get a man sent off for no. That was a stupid thing to do. And then we have a crazy moment at the end of the first half. That was coming from the moment Magoma get booked 3 minutes into the game. It was over, not because of his booking, just the whole team had clearly already fallen to pieces. Even though it took Brugge until the 41st minute to really hammer home that this was going to be an actual hammering, it was coming. We were all over the place, and had been the entire game. This kind of just made the wrong decisions. There was no capacity to make decisions. This team was in pieces the minute they come onto the pitch tonight. So when a man sent off and then we completely lose our heads before half time, I don't know. So the situation here is, and in the press room as well, I watched the video in the press room. He seemed resigned, as I say, is in his eyes throughout the match as well. But we won't lose 6-0 again. He's saying we won't lose 6-0 again. At this point, I don't know. That might just mean because you're not actually going to, because you're not going to be there. Who could we get to replace him? Who could we actually get into the place? And I know that the answer here is a bit like when when Joe Biden supporters or anybody who wanted rid of Trump after his first term in the next election, the one that he announced he'd been cheated out of, there was campaign stickers saying literally any living thing, literally any living thing. And I know as the majority of Rangers supporters are thinking literally any living thing could do a better job than Russell Martin, but I don't know. It seems to be it feels like a kind of vertically integrated takeover that happened in June. And that means you can replace the component parts, obviously. But it was like new owners, new kind of honorary directors, and new executive directors, and new coaching staff, and new players. It's just like everyone's coming in at the same time, and they're all kind of in it together, sort of thing. Ketil Knutsen, the guy who's in charge of Bodo Glimt, the guy who's been running Bodo Glimt for the last 8 years. But I think that's the kind of effect he's going for, Russell Martin. But obviously Rangers are in no way suited to that kind of thing. The Bodo Glimt thing is completely unique. The part of the world they're in, it's all local players. It's certainly all, or mostly Norwegian players. It's a very, very local shop, so to speak. It's more like Dundee United under Jim McLean, and even that's too big a comparison. But I think he's trying to go for that kind of intensity where he wants all his own players and he wants this kind of total harmony, togetherness, tightness. And I think I don't think it's anything to do with the level of players he's buying. I think the dressing room is being destroyed by players who don't buy into it, and it's that kind of attitude we're trying to get. And I think Russell Martin I wouldn't be surprised if he stays. I know why people feel that anybody would be better than Russell Martin, particularly after that result tonight. As I said kind of last night in my preview pods, I was absolutely not basing my, I'm not trying to make excuses here or whatever like that, but I wasn't basing the fact that I want Russell Martin to stay, or last night I wanted him to stay, on the football we're playing at this moment in time. There's no way he could survive if we kept playing football like this for the next 2 or 3 months. But I was just convinced that it was obviously going to have to get better, and this was all part of a plan, because everything we knew about Russell Martin, everything we'd been told about him, everything he was telling us about himself, everything I think the supporters actually want as well. There's a legacy issue here. It's the same players. They'll always get a manager sacked. They'll get any manager sacked. So there's a problem there that has to be kind of excavated, dug down into. That's not going to happen overnight. Solving it. It might only take a month, but I feel as if I wanted to see what was going to happen. I was wanting to see what would happen at the end of the transfer window, and it seems like that can't come quick enough for various reasons that aren't altogether clear. It seems that Nico Raskin, that was touched on tonight. He didn't actually say out and out, make the direct connection. Yes, we've had an offer for Nico Raskin. Yes, he wants to leave. Or we don't want to sell him, or we want to sell him and he doesn't want to leave. It didn't, but he was putting the two things so close together in his answers. The generalities, players are being, having their heads turned. We're getting offers in for players. I'm not saying Nico Raskin isn't one of them or something like that. I don't know. For sign Raskin, our best asset. If we sell him, maybe you're hoping to be getting like 20 million for him at least. You could get. Then maybe that makes it easier. We're already in for Bojan Majowski as another striker, which we'll need because Danilo, despite his overhead kick straight into the arms of the goalie tonight, I think being the only attempt we had directly on goal, certainly in the second half, he's useless. He's just so lightweight, it's unbelievable. We're going to need another striker. I think we need two more strikers because Dessers is heading as well, and he's never fit enough for whatever. Left back, need a left back and a centre half, another centre half, at least one more centre half. And maybe we're going to sign Raskin and be able to bring these guys in. We certainly know what our budget's going to be now as well. We've only got a few days to execute, to spend it, but apparently Paragmanath likes to spend late. That's when you get the best bargains in the transfer window. But there's no confusion. Might we get Champions League money? It's Europa League money. It's what we've got coming in. And obviously the 49ers Enterprises will know what their budget was anyway. The draw, the final now is in Besiktas. The final's in Besiktas. It's Istanbul, Besiktas' ground, the Europa League final. And we find out on Friday who we're going to get. The draw is on Friday. Tomorrow's draw, Thursday's draw. The Champions League. It's not so much about here's what you could have won as here's could have absolutely pounded you. Might as well take us up to 2 hours, folks, because it's an epic night. It's a massive night. As always, there's just too much to talk about with Rangers just now. To do a short pod, it would feel like a betrayal. But I do have a pet theory, and you'll be glad to know. And that's all it is, kind of weirdo pub bore type. One of you guys is no, you know what I'm saying. Aye, mate, I get what you're theory. No, you know what I'm saying, though. Aye, it's that kind of theory that I've got here. But ever since the cataclysm of 2012, the kind of financial implosion, we can only advance via cataclysm because the whole natural energy of the club, the fans, the stadium, the former players and all that, even our enemies, then the media attention, everybody is just like Rangers, a club that wins everything, goes through periods of winning everything. And the whole energy around us just can't help assuming that we're a huge and great and winning club. Winning should come natural to us. So Russell Martin has diagnosed it already this season in our draws in the league, that we take our foot off the gas ever since 2012. We take our foot off the gas when we score. We take our foot off the gas when we have a good result. We take our foot off the gas when we, we've qualified for Europe. All progress need a corner beating us. It's that we get somewhere and it's just somebody who's entitled, basically. Somebody who feels entitled is usually somebody who hasn't done anything to earn the past glories that give them that sense of entitlement. And that's what we're getting just now. All the players who have done all that kind of thing are all retired or whatever, and they're hanging about the club, or they're speaking on behalf of the club. They're ambassadors at the club, etc. And they're giving off that on. And the players that we're getting in, that maybe the managers were getting in, often like, all right, I deserve to be here. Then I can just assume that aura without doing anything to prove it. It's something we've been doing ever since 2012. We probably did it our whole history. Confirmation bias is a terrible thing, but Kilmarnock's the worst. Rugby Park is the worst for us, where we're playing badly, but we'll get a goal, maybe take the lead, or maybe equalise, and think, oh, that's it, we're going to be fine now, and then Kilmarnock beat us. Or Kilmarnock equalise late on, or something like that. We never put it to bed. We never get that second goal. But that's it. It's been happening this season already, in the league especially, but it's just one of those things. It's been happening in various ways, various levels, ever since 2012. It's like constant reminders to kind of get our finger out when we think, all right, okay, this is a situation. We find ourselves in the bottom tier of Scottish football. We're going to play in the Challenge Cup. We're playing Brecon at Glebe Park. Well, that's something. I've got the Captain America. I've got, Carlos Bocanegra, and that's playing for us. Just Lee McCulloch. He scores against Leon, and Leon's got against Celtic at Parkhead and the New Year's derbies and stuff like that. Big jig's going to be different level and stuff like that, and it goes to extra time. It's live on telly, and we're getting taken to extra time by Brecon City, and we have to really push it. So we kind of a potential cataclysm on top of the cataclysm we think we're starting to get away from. And in our very first league game, actual third division match, we have to equalise in the last minute. We're getting beat by Peterhead up at Balmoor Stadium, and I think it's the last minute we actually equalise to get a draw, just to make it. No, it's another wee cataclysm. Our first league game at Ibrox as a lower league club, East Stirlingshire. They score first. We pumped them 5-1, but they had to score first almost to. It's another cataclysm. Just to remind you that you're trying to get away from a cataclysm. Just because you're playing in front of 40,000 at Ibrox doesn't mean you've arrived. You're not a proper Rangers team, and we finally get back to a domestic cup final. We're finally back in a cup final. Wraith Rovers at Easter Road, whatever. They beat us after extra time. It's horrendous. We'll just get back to that cup final. We'll do it better this time. Here we are in the semi-final again the following season. We're 2-0 up against Alloa in the semi-final. It's 2 minutes since I mentioned Alloa beating us in the semi-final of the Challenge Cup, but they scored 3 goals against us in 15 minutes. We go 2-1 up with 15 minutes, first time back in a major cup final. We go 2-1 up with, what was it, 20 minutes to go, 15 minutes to go. That says we're back in a major cup final. Plus we've been promoted to the top flight. Andy Halliday celebrates in the Scottish Cup final in 2016, pitting us 2-1 up in the second half by going, calm down. Everybody is saying this, he's telling us, calm down, Andy. Calm down, boys, it'll be alright, I'm sitting in the main stand and I'm like, calm down, Andy, calm down. It's like we beat Celtic in the semi-final. We're back in the top flight. It's Rangers in the Scottish Cup final. We always win the Scottish Cup. And Hibs score twice. Hibs, who haven't won the Scottish Cup for 114 years, score twice towards the end, and first season back. We'll take second. We're not going to be. We're going to accept second place. That's just, we can't be straight up into the top flight and immediately overtaking Celtic now that we're back in the top. It's not going to be. We finished third, and then we finished third the following season as well. But we qualify for Europe. Well, we're back in Europe. No bother, back in Europe. No, we've been beaten by Progress Niederkorn of Luxembourg, who nobody's ever heard of. It's the worst result in our European history. We thought it's probably still is joint, but we can't beat Celtic when we get back into the top flight either. And then we win 55. We win the league. Steven Gerrard takes 3 seasons, but we get there and we're playing St Mirren in the League Cup, and we've equalised against them in the last minute again. Wasn't going to it? Oh no, they've scored a win on injury time. We're playing St Johnstone. Like that's Tav's scored against them. With a couple of minutes of extra time to go, we took the eye off the ball when it came to it. Oh, their goalkeepers just equalised really, and I know it wasn't the goalie, but he made listed and they beat us in penalties. St Johnstone. We'll just stick to winning the league. Whatever. We'll go to a European final. We've reached a European final. We are back. That is it. Rangers are definitely back. No more cataclysms. Liverpool have beaten us 7-1. It was qualified for the We've qualified for the Champions League. We did Malmo after Steven Gerrard wins the league. The Malmo disaster. It's all square. It's level in aggregate. Malmo are down to 10 men. We're at Ibrox in the second leg. We're getting into the Champions League to get Stevie G the money he needs to keep building in this, and then we get beat 2-1. But they got to a European final, and then we did qualify for the group stages the following season. We're getting beat 4-0 at Ajax, 7-1 by Liverpool, 3-0 home and away by Napoli. It's just cataclysm. Look, we get put out the Champions League by Kaunas. We get put out the Champions League qualifiers by Kaunas of Lithuania in the first tie we played after reaching the final in Manchester. So Celtic have been getting 7 pit past them regularly in the Champions League, even when we were still in the lower leagues. It's just confirmation bias. This is just stuff that this was a Rangers team in 2008. Getting put out by Kaunas, having after the final in Manchester, the financial hardships were starting to hit home at that point in time, but nothing like they would in a few years afterwards. And I say Celtic, total financial continuity under Peter Lawwell. All through that, they were still getting stuffed. They're getting beat by 6 goals quite easily in the Champions League. A lot last season as well. They got beat 7-1 by Borussia Dortmund, who we put out in the way to the Europa League final. So maybe the confirmation bias in my part, but I even said that when it was the new owners took over that I could officially stop worrying about us now that we've got this big American consortium, and I stopped worrying about the fact I might need to wait until the 2030s before we're starting to get the usual levels of Rangers glory returning to the club. I took my foot off the gas. I thought it wasn't Russell Martin. If it wasn't Russell Martin, it'd just be the next guy. No, we've had another cataclysm to remind us that we need to. I didn't bargain for the horror results we could pick up while just trying on various kind of new head coaches, like high school kids trying on hats and sunglasses in a department store in a John Hughes movie. This tonight was more like a kind of Gus Van Sant high school movie, but that's what's always intrigued me about Russell Martin's appointment is whether or not it's a way of finally embracing the kind of cataclysms at Ibrox, encouraging a kind of controlled explosion. A lot of the poison is contained. A bit of the poison is contained in the antidote tradition. Mithridates, he died old because he kept taking wee bits of poison that would help inoculate him against the various folk trying to kill him. I don't know if that's what it feels. If Paraghmanath's got too much experience of British football, if you like, and Thelwell and Purdy might not be geniuses. Patrick Stewart maybe it wasn't at Manchester United at a great time, but I feel as if this Rangers have been observed. They have been, the way things have been going the past few seasons, has been seriously looked into by these guys and also by Russell Martin before he officially took the job as well. And they've had a plan together. And it seems like they're all singing from the same hymn sheets. I don't know if this was the moment that it got out of control or the anticipated kind of bottoming out. I sound insane, I know, but it's what we know about Russell Martin, his style and his records and his methodology, and what Patrick Stewart must have picked up about the squad in his kind of near year here at Ibrox. It's run by a bunch of Billy Big Boys, so get rid of them. And temporarily that will see us, we'll have a really bad time. We'll see us being a bit rudderless on the pitch. But the cryptic Russell Martin quotes, and some of his kind of outright criticisms, open criticisms of the team, point to a kind of head-on battle with pre-existing dressing room problems. Ones we claimed that must be there and needed to be dealt with when we're slipping up again domestically season after season. So I don't know. I don't know if it's just a cataclysm that we're actually trying to bring upon ourselves this time. The way Russell Martin was talking, what he was, maybe not the way he was saying it, but the content of what he was saying tonight seemed to be the end of the transfer window is going to help us get through this. That's going to be a big thing, and I'll get rid of a few of the troublemakers in the dressing room and go in my kind of players, and maybe even if they've not got players in it who are as good as Raskin or even James Tavernier, if he's going to have to get booted out, that'll be compensated for by the fact that we'll have a whole team on the same hymn sheets, the same level, and Russell Martin would very definitely be the boss. So cataclysm, yet another, hopefully the last kind of cataclysm wake up call. But you can't hit that snooze button. You can't hit that snooze button in this. But either Russell Martin is hitting his snooze button, his own personal snooze button from Friday onwards, because he's not got a job to go to, or we're beating Celtic on Sunday, or both. Either way, as the man himself says, we won't be conceding 6 again.